All right, so today we're going to tackle kind of head stretcher,
Yeah.
Nvidia, they just, knocked it out of the park at CES 2025.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy tech advancements, but then
Yeah.
their stock takes a dip right after. What's the deal with that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it does make you wonder.
Yeah,
Nvidia's this company, everyone knows for graphics, right?
yeah, the big one.
GPUs, AI, all that. I mean, they power so much from
Yeah.
games to those huge data centers everyone's always talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Their whole performance really impacts the whole tech world, Investors, everyday people using tech, it all kind of comes back to them.
Yeah, exactly. And to see their stock dip after, such a strong showing at CES.
Right.
It's like, what are investors?
What are they seeing?
Yeah, what do they see that we're not?
Right.
Especially when you think about, NVIDIA's whole history.
Yeah.
Started in '93, right? Just making graphics chips. Now they're, leading the charge in AI.
Right.
Deep learning. You think that track record would, give people confidence?
Yeah, you'd think so. And, I mean, to be fair, there is data that points to them still doing really well.
Right.
Analysts are predicting a huge, 72% increase in their revenue next quarter.
Mm.
Plus, they're always on those, big investor lists, the IBD 50.
Right.
Which tracks, companies doing well, strong fundamentals.
Yeah, it's not like they're,
falling apart.
Yeah, exactly. Falling apart. They're innovating, they're growing, attracting investors.
Right.
But this stock dip, it's still weird? Is it just a temporary thing?
I know.
Or is there something deeper going on?
Yeah, that's the question, right? And I think to answer it, we got to look beyond just the surface level stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, their advancements are undeniable.
Right.
But there are some things, some challenges they're facing that might be making the market a little hesitant.
Okay, let's get into those challenges. What are we talking about? What's kind of spooking investors, even though Nvidia has all these strengths?
Well, the tech world, it's all about competition, right?
Yeah, super competitive.
Cutthroat.
Yeah.
And yeah, Nvidia's a leader, but they're not alone in the AI and high performance computing space.
Yeah, so it's not just about being good.
Right.
It's about being the best.
Exactly.
And that's tough, especially when everything's moving so fast.
Absolutely.
So are there any specific competitors we should be thinking about?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Google and AMD, they're making big moves in AI chips and hardware.
Okay.
Tons of resources going into research and development.
Right.
They want to grab that market share.
Of course.
And investors are watching that very closely.
Yeah, makes sense.
So yeah, we've got this battle for dominance going on.
Right.
But what else?
Yeah, what else is making things tricky for Nvidia?
Well, remember all those supply chain issues we've been seeing globally?
Oh, yeah, right.
They're still messing things up for a lot of tech companies.
Oh, yeah, big time.
And Nvidia is not, immune to that.
Right.
They rely on this huge network of suppliers, right?
Of course.
For parts, manufacturing, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Any little hiccup can throw off their production.
Absolutely.
And that hits their bottom line.
Yeah, no, totally. We've seen it before, right? Even small delays
Oh, yeah.
can snowball into shortages,
Huge impact.
missed deadlines. For a company like Nvidia with, their big plans, those disruptions are a real problem.
Exactly. It's those supply chain weaknesses, they're like cracks in the foundation,
Yeah, yeah.
Even if everything looks great on the surface, those cracks can lead to big problems, and investors know that.
They do. So we've got the competition, we've got the supply chain issues, both creating a lot of uncertainty about what's going to happen with Nvidia.
Right.
But I imagine, just the general feeling in the market, investor psychology, that plays a role too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's not all hard data.
Yeah, market sentiment, it's huge. Global events, economic worries, even just rumors
Right.
can have a ripple effect, even on a giant like Nvidia.
Yeah, it's a roller coaster, right?
Yeah.
You've got those highs of amazing innovation,
Mm-hmm.
and then the lows of everyone freaking out
Exactly.
and trying to figure out where it's all going next. That's the tough part.
That's the tough part. But we got to remember, even with all this stuff, there are good reasons to be optimistic about Nvidia.
Okay, yeah, you've got me curious. Let's talk about that next. Why are some experts still so bullish on them?
Right.
And what does this all mean for, the average person listening, trying to figure out their own finances?
Yeah, good questions. It's easy to get kind of caught up in all the doom and gloom, but we got to remember what makes Nvidia so interesting to begin with.
Right.
They're not just keeping up with this AI boom.
Mhm.
They're driving it,
Right. Right.
Their GPUs are behind all these crazy advancements in machine learning, deep learning, all that.
And that's true. We talked about competition. But they're still the ones setting the bar, right?
Exactly.
What makes their tech so in demand when it comes to AI?
I think one big thing is they're focused on making hardware and software specifically for AI. Like they've got this thing, Tensor Core architecture. It's made to speed up those super complicated calculations that deep learning needs.
Right, right.
So they've got this performance edge.
So it's not just like raw power, it's about having the right tools for the job.
Exactly.
And Nvidia is really good at making those tools for AI, which, changes all the time.
Exactly. It's constantly evolving, and that's attracting everyone, not just investors, but like businesses,
Okay.
like everywhere. Healthcare, finance, self-driving cars, even science research, they're all using NVIDIA's tech.
Yeah,
That tells you something about their potential.
that's true. And I mean, remember that 72% revenue increase.
Yeah, it's not just hype.
That's real.
There are real applications for this stuff.
Yeah, their tech is literally powering the things that are changing entire industries.
That's right. And for people who think long-term about investing, it's huge, They're not just betting on a company, they're betting on AI itself.
Right, with Nvidia leading the way.
Exactly.
So it makes sense why some people are still so optimistic, even with everything going on in the market. They're seeing the big picture.
They see the potential.
Yeah, the potential of AI and how Nvidia is going to shape it.
It's like back in the day with the internet. Lots of
Right.
ups and downs, but the people who saw how big it was going to be early on, they did really well.
Yeah, yeah.
Some people think it's the same with AI.
Right.
And NVIDIA's in a great spot to benefit from that.
That's a good way to think about it. It puts things into perspective. But we can't ignore those worries about competition and supply chains, right?
Of course not.
How do you balance those with this optimism?
Well, you got to remember, every company has problems.
Right, even the best ones.
Even the best ones. It's all about how they handle those problems.
Right.
And NVIDIA's been pretty good at adapting and innovating.
So it's not just about what's happening now. It's about their history
Right.
and if they can get through tough times.
Exactly. They've always put money into research and development. They've moved into new markets. They've partnered with other companies, all to stay ahead.
Yeah.
That's so important in tech because it changes so fast.
It sounds like they're thinking long term,
Yeah.
building a business that can handle the market going up and down.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. They're not just trying to make a quick buck, they're building something that lasts.
Right.
And that's important to a lot of investors, especially the ones looking for companies that can survive the tough times.
It's crazy how one company, Nvidia, can show us so much about what's happening in tech and the whole economy.
It's true. Their story shows us that we got to look deeper, see how everything's connected, the technology, the competition, supply chains, even how investors are feeling.
It's complicated.
Yeah,
But if we break it down, look at each part, we can get a better idea of what's going on with Nvidia and maybe what it means for the future of tech.
exactly. And that's what makes these deep dives so useful for everyone listening. It's not just about one company. It's about giving them the knowledge to understand finance and technology, to make smart decisions, and maybe even find opportunities where other people just see problems.
Well said. It's about giving our listeners the power to be more than just, bystanders.
Right.
They can be part of this whole story of technology changing and the economy transforming.
Exactly. So as we move to our last part, we're going to take everything we've talked about, the innovations, the challenges, all the forces at play, and try to give our listeners something they can take away from this.
Okay.
What does NVIDIA's story tell us about the bigger picture, and what can our listener learn from it for their own financial journey?
All right, so stick with us, everyone. In the last part, we're going to bring it all together and give you some insights you won't want to miss. Okay, so we've spent this whole deep dive looking at Nvidia. Super innovative company leading the way in AI, but
All right.
there's all this uncertainty in the market. We talked about their tech, the challenges, the competition, supply chain issues, all that. So where do we land? What's the takeaway for a listener trying to make sense of all this?
Well, I think what's happening with NVIDIA shows us something important about innovation and how we need to understand the whole picture.
Okay,
It's easy to get excited about AI. It's a hot technology.
yeah, definitely.
But even the best companies, they're part of this bigger system.
Right.
Lots of different things can affect them.
So we can't just focus on the tech itself.
Exactly.
We got to think about who they're competing with, the economy, even just how investors are feeling, right? It's all connected.
It's all connected. And I think NVIDIA's stock going down, even though they're doing all this cool stuff, it reminds us that success in tech, it's not always a smooth ride.
Yeah, definitely not.
There are going to be bumps, times when things are uncertain, times when the market does stuff you don't expect.
It's like that roller coaster we were talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Big highs, some scary drops, but you got to keep your eyes on the long game.
Exactly. The long game, those ups and downs, they're just part of it.
So that's a good lesson for everyone listening, even if they're not investing in Nvidia.
Absolutely.
These ideas, they apply to finance and tech in general.
It's not just about picking the right stocks. It's about understanding how companies work, how markets work, and how to deal with uncertainty.
So you become a smarter investor.
Right.
You can see through all the noise and make good decisions based on, the whole picture.
Exactly. So as we wrap up, what are some key things our listeners can take away? What can they actually use on their own financial journey?
Good question.
All right, here's a few things. First, don't freak out over every little change in the market.
Right.
Look at the long-term trends, the big picture. Second, do your research, always.
Yeah,
Understand the company, who they're competing with, the risks, the opportunities, all of it.
makes sense.
And third, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Diversify.
Diversify, exactly. No matter how good a company looks, spread your investments around.
Good advice. It reminds everyone that investing isn't gambling.
Right.
It's about making smart choices based on good information and thinking long term. And like we saw with Nvidia, even the most innovative companies can hit some rough patches.
That's true. So stay curious, keep learning, and adjust your approach as things change. Finance and tech, they're always evolving.
Yeah,
The people who can adapt, they're the ones who are going to succeed.
couldn't have said it better myself. All right, well, that's about it for this deep dive. But before we go, I want to leave everyone with one last thought. We talked a lot about Nvidia, but they're just one example of how much things are changing.
Right.
So as you go about your day, notice the new things popping up around you. Ask questions. Be curious. Never stop learning. In a world that's changing so fast, knowledge is power.
Couldn't agree more. Thanks for joining us, everyone. See you next time for another deep dive into, well, whatever's fascinating us next week.